Good morning, all of you. Welcome to your English 2 class. How was your exam? I know it was very good. I have checked all of you performed quite well, and that was also expected from all of you. Now, yes, we haven't started any new chapter for a long time, and you all are really dying to do so, right? So today we will be beginning with a new chapter, that is A Horse and Two Goats by R.K. Narayan. So before we proceed in telling you the story, let us know something about the writer. R.K. Narayan was an Indian writer who was famous for his stories set in the fictional village of South India named Malgudi. Okay, we all have heard about Malgudi days. This is very famous Narayan series, and here you'll get to see the language is very easy and unpretentious, and the sense is still retained, and everything is told with much humor, but you will relate. It is nothing but the compassion, the emotion of everyday ordinary people. Okay, this story, A Horse and Two Goats, here you will get to see a conversation will take place between an English speaking American and illiterate South Indian villager. Okay, so it will give birth to much comical elements in the story, but it will also decipher certain very grave concerns, that is clash of cultures, poverty versus wealth, and then we can say knowledge versus ignorance. Okay, so it is quite an amusing story, and you will have fun while reading it. And keep in your mind, this grave concerns are also there. While reading that, try to have a relation. Okay, so I'll not. Let me just tell you a very short introduction of both the characters. The foreigner, who will be red-faced, he will come, who knows nothing but English, and he will try to speak to Muni in whatever known language to him, that is English. But Muni is such a character who knows nothing but Tamil and never stepped out his village. Okay, so the foreigner with his English is baffled by the incomprehensible and bizarre behavior of Muni, and he will get confused, and sometimes he will also ask for a translator so that he can get a minimum essence of whatever Muni is speaking. So there will be a very comical situation that is going to take place. It is a very funny story, so let us begin. A Horse and Two Goats by R.K. Narayan. Of 700,000 villages dotting the map of India, Kritam was probably the tiniest, indicated on the district survey map by a microscopic dot. So, of 700,000 villages, okay, dotting the map of India means spread out in the map of India. Kritam was, what is Kritam? This is the name of a village, was the teeniest, indicated on the district survey map by the microscopic dot. So whenever it was surveyed through a microscopic glass or a magnifying glass, it was found as the teeniest. But its size is not prevent its giving itself the grandiose name Kritam, which meant in Tamil coronet or crown on the brow of the subcontinent. So, see, though the size is very teeny, but the name Kritam means crown. Okay, so it was completely different and stands completely different from the name it's given, and which meant in Tamil coronet or crown on the brow of this continent. This village consisted of less than 30 houses, only one of them built with brick and cement. see, the village is very small and it consisted less than 30 houses, and only one of them built with brick and cement, and among all those less than 30 houses, only one was built with brick and cement. Painted a brilliant yellow and blue all over, gorgeous carvings of gods. So it is the house which was only house made of cement and bricks, was painted with vibrant yellow and blue color with gorgeous carvings of gods, as we have seen in many Indian houses, and gargoyles on its balustrade. So gargoyles means what? It means a grotesque curved structure of a human or any animal, often built at the very beginning of the gutter, which actually acts as a carrier of the water. Okay, and it is also seen in many houses, and it was also present there in the blue and yellow house. On its balustrade, on its railing, and so on its railing, so we can understand this faces, this grotesque curved type of faces of animals and humans are made on its balustrade. So we have seen railings everywhere. So on the railings, at the beginning or at the mouth of the railings, those grotesque curved figures were produced or presented. It is known as the big house. The other houses, distributed in 4 streets, were generally of bamboo thatch, straw, mud and other unspecified materials. So except this house, the other houses in the village, they were made of bamboo. Thatch means palm leaves, straw we all know, and mud, other unspecified material. Muni's was the last house in the 4th street. So Muni, okay, this is going to be a character, not a character, it is the main character in the story. So his house was at last in the 4th street, beyond which stretched the field. So after his house, which was situated at the last of the 4th street, and after that no houses were there, only the fields started stretching. In his prosperous days, Muni had owned a flock of 40 sheep and goats, and sallied forth every morning, driving the flock to the highway a couple of miles away. So in his prosperous days, so right now the situation has been different, right? So in his prosperous days, Muni has owned a flock of 40 sheep and goats, and he used to take them, he used to march them to the highway, which was couples of miles away. Couple of miles means 2 miles away from his village. There he would sit on the pedestal of a clay statue of a horse while his cattle grazed around. Okay, so while he sit on the pedestal on which the statue is made, okay, something is made of mud or cement, of some concrete material on which the statue is made. So he used to sit there, and he used to sit there of a clay statue. So there is a clay statue on the pedestal of a horse. The statue was of a horse which his cattle grazed around, while his cattle was there in the meadow or in the grass area. He carried a crook at the end of a bamboo pole and snapped foliage from the avenue trees to feed his flock. So he carried a crook means a sickle, okay, at the end of a bamboo pole. It was actually tied on the end of a bamboo pole. And snapped foliage, he used to break foliage. Foliage means leafage from the avenue trees and feed his folk. And after cutting leaves and all, he feeds his folk. He also gathered faggots and dry sticks. Faggots, that is also dry sticks used for fuel, and bundled them and carried them home for fuel at sunset. So he used to light them up and it serves the purpose of a fuel. His wife lit the domestic fire at dawn, boiled water in a mud pot, threw into it a handful of millet flour, added salt and gave him his first nourishment for the day. So what was Muni's actually first meal? His wife, first she lit the fire at dawn, then boiled water in a mud pot, threw into it a handful of millet powder, okay, and added some salt, and this was the first nourishment for the day for Muni. When he started out, she would put in his hand a packed lunch. Once again the same millet cooked into a little ball, which he could swallow with a raw onion a midday. So in the lunch time also, he used to get the same meal that he received for his breakfast, only the added ingredient was raw onion, which he used to swallow. His fortunes had declined gradually unnoticed. From a flock of 40, which he drove into a pen at night, the stock had now come down to the 2 goats, which were tethered to the trunk of a drumstick tree which grew in front of his hut, and from which occasionally Muni could shake down drumsticks. So we were talking about his prosperous days when he used to own 40 flock of sheep, but now sheep and goats. But now his fortune has declined gradually unnoticed, and it has now come to the number of 2 only, which was tethered, means which were tied to the drumstick tree which was there in front of Muni's hut, which Muni sometimes he likes to shake that to have some drumsticks. This morning he got 6. He carried them in with a sense of triumph, as if he won a battle. So he just managed to have 6 drumsticks. Although no one could say precisely who owned the tree, it was his because he lived in its shadow. Actually, don't think like it was Muni's tree, but since he lived there in the shadow of the tree, he actually considered this tree of his, and he generally takes drumsticks from the tree. His wife said, "If you were content with the drumstick leaves alone, I could boil and salt some water for you." So his wife, what does his wife say? Say, I have some salt only, so I can boil this drumsticks with the help of salt in the mud pot. So this I can do for you. "Oh, I'm tired of eating those leaves. I have a craving to chew the drumsticks out of sauce, I tell you. See, I'm tired of eating those leaves." So his wife actually asked him to have some leaves of the drumstick tree, not the drumstick. So he said, "I'm tired of having those leaves of the drumstick tree, and I had those things boiled several times. But now I have a craving to chew the drumstick out of sauce. You made a saucy curry, and I want to chew those drumsticks out of the sauce. You have only 4 teeth in your jaw, But your craving is for big things? Alright, get the stuff for the sauce and I will prepare it for you. So his wife actually mockingly says that you have only 4 teeth, okay, and you are craving for big things. Okay, I will prepare whatever you want, but you just go and bring the stuff to make the sauce. After all, next year you may not be alive to ask for anything. Okay, so yes, maybe in the next year this 4 teeth will also go away. So let us fulfill your desire. But first, get me all the stuff including a measure of rice or millet and I will satisfy your unholy cravings. So first, you just get me all the stuff including a measure of rice or millet. Means the millet powder has also gone finished. Okay, so just whatever the ingredients required for making the sauce, you bring that, along with you bring rice or millet, and I will satisfy your unholy cravings. So this is something to be considered by his wife as unholy. Our store is empty today. Dal, chili, curry leaves, mustard, coriander, ginger oil and 1 large potato. So this is the list Muni has to bring out from the shop. Dal, chili, curry leaves, mustard, coriander, ginger oil means sesame oil, and 1 large potato. So by these ingredients we can understand this is nothing but a South Indian recipe. Go out and get all this. He repeated the list after her in order not to miss any item and walked off to the shop in the 3rd street. So he also repeated the ingredients so that he, in case if anything, he can be missed out. So he now went for the shop which was situated in the 3rd lane. Muni sat patiently on an upturned packing case below the platform of the shop. So where did Muni sit? He sat on an upturned packing case, a packing case which was upturned, okay, and he sat on that. The shopman paid no attention to him. Muni kept clearing his throat, coughing, sneezing, hachi, until the shopman could not stand it anymore and demanded, what ails you? What bothering you? Since the shop owner paid no attention in the beginning, Muni started coughing, sneezing and doing all the stuff so that the shop owner can pay attention. You will fly off the seat into the gutter if you sneeze so hard, young man. So actually this is told by the shop owner, you will fly to the gutter, to the drain, if you cough and sneeze so hard like this. Muni laughed inordinately in order to please the shopman at being called young man. So since the shopman uttered the phrase young man, so that actually satisfied Muni and he laughed. This completely won the shopman over. He liked his sense of humor to be appreciated. So this completely won the shopman over. The shopman now felt to be a winner, as his sense of humor is something to be appreciated. It causes someone smiles. By thus humoring the shopman, Muni could always ask for 1 or 2 items of food. See, by thus humoring the shopman, Muni could always ask for 1 or 2 items of food, promising repayment later. So, owing to such humor of the shopman, Muni often asked for 1 or 2 items. Okay, and he also promised for a repayment later. Some days the shopman was in a good mood and gave in. And sometimes he would lose his temper suddenly and bark at Mooney for daring to ask for credit. So it completely depends upon the mood of the shop owner. If he was in a good mood, he reacted in a good way and he gave everything Mooney wanted. But if he was in a bad mood, he just started barking at Mooney and he had not given any of the ingredients Mooney wanted. The shopman said, if you could find 5 rupees and a quarter, you will have paid off an ancient debt. See, ancient. Please focus on the word ancient. The shopman said, if you have 5 rupees also, then you will be able to repay an ancient debt. Means Mooney was such a customer who used to ask for things on a loan. Okay, and he often promised for a repayment, but he never did that. How much have you got now? So the shopkeeper asked, how much have you got now? I will pay you everything on the first of the next month. Mooney said, I will pay you everything on the first of the next month. As always. And whom do you expect to rob then? As always means Mooney often says that. And whom do you expect to rob by then? Shopkeeper asked. So, are you planning to rob anyone? Mooney felt caught and mumbled. So, Mooney felt caught and he whispered, my daughter has sent word that she will be sending me money. My daughter said that she will be sending me money. Have you a daughter? Sneered the shopman, ridiculed the shopman. And she is sending you money. For what purpose, may I know? Birthday, 50th birthday, said Mooney quietly. Birthday? How old are you? The shopman asked. Mooney repeated weakly, but not being sure of it himself. 50. He always calculated his age from the time of the Great Famine when he stood as high as a parapet around the village well. So how does he count his age? He often counts his age from the Great Famine that took place earlier. At that time he was up to the length of a parapet. Parapet means a wall of a village wall. So this much height. So he used to count his age like that according to the length and height. But who could calculate such things accurately nowadays with so many famines occurring? So who will count like that? Is that a scientific way to count someone's age? Because so many famines are occurring nowadays, and yes, we all are going through a pandemic situation of COVID-19, and it is, really terrible and gruesome. We all are terrified, so take care all of you. The shopman felt encouraged when other customers stood around to watch and comment. The shopman felt encouraged. So, since both of them indulged themselves in talking to each other, the shopman felt encouraged and the other customers stood around to watch and comment. More likely you are 70, he said to Mooney. You also forget that you mentioned a birthday 5 weeks ago when you wanted castor oil for your holy bath. So, you may be forgetting that you already mentioned your birthday that was a few weeks previously, and you asked for castor oil for your holy bath on your birthday, and I gave you that. You are mentioning a birthday again. At this, Mooney unobtrusively rose and moved off. He rose off and he rose unobtrusively means what? Unobtrusively means unnoticeably. Okay, and he moved off. He just went from there. He later told his wife, that scoundrel would not give me anything. So go out and sell the drumsticks for what they are worth. See, that scoundrel shop owner, he gave me nothing. To this, he said, go out and sell the drumsticks for what they are worth. He flung himself down in a corner to recoup from the fatigue of his visit to the shop. So he flung means he threw himself down in a corner. To recoup means to compensate from the fatigue of his visit to the shop. His wife said, "You are getting no sauce today, nor anything else. I can't find anything to give you to eat. Fast till the evening. So you please starve till evening. I will do you good. It will do you good. Take the goats and be gone now." You just take the goats and just leave this place, get lost from here. She cried and added, "Don't come back before the sun is down. Don't come back before the sunset." He knew that if he disobeyed her, she would somehow conjure up some food for him in the evening. So he knew that if he obeyed her, she would somehow conjure up means magically manage something, some food for him in the evening. Only he must be careful not to argue and irritate her. So this situation happens earlier, so Muni knows what to do. Her temper was undependable in the morning but improved by evening time. He knows his wife. She was sure to go out and work, grind corn in the big house, sweep or scrub somewhere, and earn enough to buy foodstuff and keep her dinner ready for him in the evening. So he knows when this type of situation occurs, his wife used to go out, work there in the big house. She may scrub the floor, she may sweep the floor, she may grind the corn, anything she will do, but she'll manage getting something so that she can buy some food stuff and make a good dinner ready for Muni by the evening. Unleashing the goats, letting off the goats from the drumstick tree, Muni started out, driving them ahead and uttering weird cries from time to time in order to urge them on. So he took those goats and he just uttered certain weird cries, says something we have seen when the herdsman takes his goats or sheep, and we have seen when they are on the road, they makes weird cries. I mean, go there, go straight, in his own language. And I have seen the flock will obviously follow his instructions. So here also he uses certain weird cries. Cries from time to time in order to urge on them. He passed through the village with his head bowed in thought. So his head was like that. It was stooped in thought. He did not want to look at anyone or to be accosted. So he was very shattered. He did not actually want to look at anyone. A couple of cronies, means a couple of pals, friends, lounging in the temple corridor, held him, but he ignored their call. He just, his pals or friends called him, but he ignored their call. The shopman had said that he was 70. At 70, one only waited to be summoned by God. So that actually hurt him very much. So he was thinking, at this age, what else I could do except to wait for the God to call me, okay? And I won't feel like responding to any other's call. When he was dead, what would his wife do? They had lived in each other's company since they were children. he had been told on their day of wedding that he was 10 years old and she was 8. So while he was thinking about when he will pass away, what will happen to his wife, because they almost lived in each other's arms since they were children. Children means when they got married, it was told that he was 10 years old and his wife was 8 years old. Progeny means offspring, so children, none. Perhaps a large progeny would have brought him the blessing of gods. So as progeny, they have received the blessings of God. Only on the outskirts did he lift his head and look up. So only on the outskirts, when he came out of his village, so he just lifted his head and looked up. He urged and bullied the goats until they meandered along to the foot of the horse statue on the edge of the village. So he urged and bullied the goats until they meandered means puzzled along to the foot of the horse statue on the edge of the village, until they come and gather there at the foot of the statue of the village. He sat on its pedestal for the rest of the day. So he just took his goats there, and he just used to just poke them until they got meandered, and he sat on the pedestal as I told you, on which the clay statue was made of a horse, right? The advantage of this was that he could watch the highway and see the lorries and buses pass through to the hills. So what was his task? To just have a track, the lorries and trucks are going, and gave him a sense of belonging to a larger world. So by watching this, he somehow felt that he is also one of the parts of this large world. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough for him to move around as the sun travelled up. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough, it was quite broad, for him to move around as the sun travelled up and westward. Or he could also crouch under the belly of the horse for shade. So he can roam around if he wants, and he can also take shelter under the belly, and it provides him shade. Okay, so up to this I will teach today. We will start in the next class from page number 56 onwards. This is very easy, very easy to understand. There is no such word you will find you do not know the meaning of, and I don't think you will feel any problem, any sort of difficulties. Till if you have, just do mention. I would love to solve that. Please do read, okay, so that you can relate to the next portion of the story in the next class. So I am not going to teach you further. You just remind me that ma'am, up to 55 we have read. From 56 onwards you will start, right? So do read, and as I always say, take care of yourself, take care of everyone around you, and keep studying. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.